You there. Yes, you. I'll let you ask next. I was pointing to him, but you'll be next. Remind me.
Okay, so my question is regarding the show Rin Denison. Very interesting, very fun show. Not as blanketly recommendable, but...
No. If you're not over 18, don't even think about watching Rin, Daughters of Animazement.
With a show like that, there was a lot of, there was so much character development involved in it. And so much of it was very internalized, so it was, not so much outspoken, not to mention it was long-form, 40-minute episodes. What was the difficulty writing in that, if there was one?
Well, I did not write the scripts for Rin, but I directed it, so I can tell you about that side of the booth. Actually, to tell you the truth, a show like that, and the show is, I'm not going to go into detail about it because it is a very adult title, and very dark and very disturbing, but actors, by and large, I find, tend to love those kinds of shows because they don't come up very often. And as actors, you're fascinated with getting into other people's skins and kind of seeing how they tick. And the darker the show, more than likely the more different they will be from who you are, and that's the appeal, is to see if you can bring someone to life that is so different than you. So actors, the actors have made that very easy for me because people like Colleen Clinkenbeard and Jamie Markey and Rob McCullum, who were my leads, are really, really good at going, wow, I get to go there? That's dark. Let's do this. No one goes, I don't think I can do this, I just can't find this within myself. No one does that. Actors are like, really? It's dark and disturbing? People are gonna retch? Absolutely, let's do this. I'm excited to be a part of this plan. And it's really fun, but you're talking about the subtlety of it, and there is a lot of it, there's a lot of, in Rin, it's one of those shows that less is more in the sense of dialogue. It's a perfect example of what I said earlier about people using language to evade direct communication. These are characters that find themselves in a position often, especially the main character, who has so many secrets, so many things she dare not say, but that she still has to act on. So she's constantly having to lie, or to pretend, or to hide her true feelings. That kind of internal conflict in a character is wonderful. It's a banquet to an actor, because that's the kind of thing you're allowed to, the less of a character that comes out on the page, the more freedom as an actor you have to sort of fill in the blanks. And while you have to be careful and not put subtext that just doesn't belong there at all, you have more interpretive freedom to go in a slightly different direction, or to play this up, or to do that a little differently, because it's such a broadly, or I should say, such a subtly presented character that there's a lot of room to play. And that's fun. I love nothing more than working on a show like that, where you can give actors that kind of freedom, because they take advantage of it. And sometimes they absolutely astonish me. And there were many, many examples of people doing that on Rin. So thank you. Again, if you're not over 18, don't even look at it on the shelf at Best Buy. Thank you. Back of the room, very back of the room. Is he like, oh wait, excuse me, you were next. I'll get to you next. Sorry. That's right. My memory's so bad. Go ahead, my dear.
Yes, me and my friends were working on our first manga series.
I'm sorry, can you speak up just a little bit?
Me and my friends were working on our first manga series.
Okay.
And my friend, it's basically her original work, but she's making it kind of traditional, and she's putting herself to the editing, and I need some advice on it. This is my first time editing.
Okay. Well, I guess how your approach to editing someone else's work is always going to be about what you think the goal of that work is, what that work is trying to say. Or what it's trying to present, and basically your job, or at least I find my job as an editor, is to trim the fat, is to trust your audience to be smart enough to get what you're saying without having to announce it. That's the biggest thing I run into with people that are first starting out writing or drawing or writing stories or whatever, is that they tend to. They're so unsure that their audience will get what they're trying to say that they pretty much do all the heavy lifting for them. And that's boring to an audience. An audience gets very, very impatient with that. They're like, okay, I get it. There's a wonderful line in Futurama where there's an episode where I think it's when Fry has composed this opera for Leela, and it's really funny, and like at some point, hello Jesus, it's Sunday. Everyone wave to Jesus.
Gay marriage.
That's my kind of Jesus. But, oh, excuse me, man. But there's a scene where all the characters on stage are being very operatic, which means they're just sort of saying how they feel at any given moment, and there's zero subtlety. But, and one of the characters gets on stage and is like, tries to interrupt the whole thing, and he's like, no, 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 no! You can't just have characters announce how they feel! That makes me so angry! And that's a great, I mean, as funny as that is, that's absolutely true though, as an editor, as a writer too, if you ever want to get out and do your own stuff. But as a writer, your job is to kind of make sure that the writer is not overplaying their hand and be like, look, you're being redundant, you're saying this too obviously, scale it back a little bit and give your audience room to put their own spin on it. That's something that every author resists at first, and often well into their careers, they just don't trust their audience enough, and so they want to do, as I said earlier, they want to do all the work for them. They're like, oh, I don't want them to get it wrong. And audiences tend not to respond to that. But on the flip side, you have to make sure that the writer is not being so subtle that no one can get it, that there's so much room that the character ends up being whoever, you know, the characters become a reflection of whoever's reading, rather than someone. There's a difference between a character that just is an echo of whoever's reading it, which I think is usually a badly written character, because it's just you're giving them a blank slate with which they can make anything, and that's also that's giving your audience too much of the heavy lifting. There's a fine balance between doing all the work for them and making them do all the work. There's a middle ground there which you have to hit as a writer, where you kind of want to suggest how this character should be read, or how this character should make you feel, but leave just enough room where it's relatable to them in a way that it may not occur to you. Writers are very reluctant to let go of their characters and just kind of set them free and let them be who they need to be for every audience. Because the thing is, as an actor, for example, I love going back and talking to people that have, you know, read something I've written or watched something I've done, and I'm fascinated by their spin on it, because they may get something out of my performance or my script that I never thought of, but that is absolutely there, that I just didn't see when I wrote it. I mean, it's not like, you know, you have to give up your authority at some point and say, you just have to let this live. So your job as an editor is to kind of make sure that they straddle that line, and to make sure that they, you know, again, trim the fat. Try not to be so obvious. Don't make sure that characters aren't just announcing how they feel. Or if they are announcing how they feel, make sure it's in the service of something funny, like the line I gave you from Futurama. You know, there is a time and place for things like that. So good luck to you. It's difficult work editing someone else's stuff, but the chance of it, you know, it's always good to let someone else kind of look at your work, so you have a good impression of what people are going to take from it, and that guides you as a writer. But you can't be so enthralled to your audience that you don't write from here. You can't just give people what they expect. That's also death to a writer. So I hope that helps. How many do you have time? 5 minutes. Okay, I have time probably for one more question, and then we wrap it up. And there is a gentleman in the very back row who had his hand up. Yes, you with the blue. Oh, can you speak up, please? You're way back there, and I have trouble hearing you. Okay. How do you improve? Like, well, again, it's very similar to what I was telling our two writers here in the audience that we're talking about, like getting characters. It's, you know, again, draw from life. You know, when you're coming up with characters to do an improv, and that's absolutely the same thing we're talking about here. You know, it's all about character and about creating people, whether it's on stage, in your head, or on the page. Draw from life. Go to places. Engage people publicly. You know, don't be a creeper about it. Don't be that person, because they exist. And just watch. And again, try to, you know, for improv, it's a really great exercise to go into public, people watch in a non-creepy way, and then sort of take notes and try to create something, some character based on what you've seen in public or in real life. That's the greatest thing. I mean, I do that all the time. I'll look at someone, and it may be the shoes they're wearing, it may be the way they walk, walk. It may be their exchange with their 4-year-old child in a laundromat that I go, that is an amazing personality, and I really want to see if I can bring that to life. If you kind of expose yourself to a variety of different types, you'll find characters just kind of coming to life in your head, and then you know your job as an actor is to dig into your bag of tricks to bring them to life for an audience. So yeah, go out there, write from life, draw upon life, go out and live, get off your phones. Is basically what I'm saying. And no, you're fine. I wasn't picking on you. But get off, go outside, go to a public place and watch people write from life. It's not happening enough anymore, and it's why most television sucks.
Here, here.
All right, thank you very much for coming. You've all been very, very intelligent and very patient listening to me ramble for an hour. I now have an autograph signing which will go on until it's done. So thank you all, you've been amazing.